From fashion industry to at-home mom to real estate, Christina Goodpaster knocks it out of the park by utilizing her social media, moms groups, and her incredible community involvement to grow her real estate business. She was able to close 12 transactions in her first 9 months and 26 in her first full year. Listen to this story that is sure to inspire.
Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the series where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
Hello, and welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. My name is Tina Lapp, and I am Head of Industry Relations and Career Excellence for Colibri Real Estate. I've been in real estate education for over 30 years, helping individuals enter and thrive in their careers. We are here today with Christina Goodpaster. Christina, will you take a moment to introduce yourself, where you live, and what company you're with?
Yeah, so I'm a realtor in Richmond, Virginia. So I service the central Virginia market, usually about an hour outside of Richmond. And I'm with Providence Hill Real Estate, which is a boutique brokerage just outside of Richmond.
Okay. So, Christina, tell us a little bit about your story. Like, what were you doing before you got into real estate?
So before real estate, I went to school for fashion. So I worked in that industry in corporate retail for about 6 years before I had kids, and kind of learned how it was to present to people, to work with people in a different capacity. But it was all in a corporate office, so you would go somewhere and that's where you would do a lot of your work.
Yeah.
I did get to travel and go to market and things like that and interact with like a lot of different vendors and people from all different companies, which was cool and kind of gave me that experience. But it wasn't people I knew, where when you get into real estate later down the road, a lot of the people you're interacting with, in some capacity. So it was definitely more of a, corporate atmosphere. But I learned a lot during that role. And then I stayed home for 6 years with my kids. So,
Okay.
exciting. And I knew eventually I wanted to have a hand in real estate at some point. And so when, they got a little bit older is when I started, looking into real estate more seriously.
Okay. And so you said you had thought about real estate for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you remember why or when you started thinking, gosh, maybe I'll get into real estate someday?
Yeah. So it was really when like I became a homeowner is when I started thinking about it. And I was just
Mm,
like, I really like this process. I had a great experience with our first realtor when we bought our first house. And so it
okay.
just kind of, sparked the interest a little bit. And
Hmm.
I didn't know kind of what I would want to do with it, but I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I love seeing houses. I love like older historic homes and, just kind of knowing what's out there. And so while I was staying home, we started investing in real estate and we bought our first rental property. And that's kind of how we
Awesome.
got into it more.
Yeah.
And I was managing that and, that went really well and really enjoyed that and knew we wanted to keep doing that at some point. So after we moved a couple times and it was a few years later and I was kind of ready to take that next step, um, we decided, I was going to get my license and we'll see to what capacity, I use it. Is it just for us or am I going to sell too? And then things kind of just picked up and snowballed from there. So.
Yeah. Okay. So you like the realtor you worked with, and now
Mhm.
your kids are getting a little bit older, and
Mhm.
you decide now's the time.
Uh-huh.
How'd you make the decision to enroll in school? Like, what
Yeah.
was that process like?
So I knew like my daughter was going to be starting kindergarten, so I was like, I'll wait till she starts to really like dig into it. And kind of
Okay.
once she started in September, then I started doing my research of like, oh, what schools are out there and all of that. Just kind of, I forget where I even looked, probably just Google and like looking on different like Facebook groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I just kind of like looked around and saw what options there were. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this online because, my son is still home at least 2 days a week. And I think that will be the easiest for me. So once I chose a school, I enrolled online and I kind of just had a goal of like, I at least want to get through the course by the end of the year. So it took me about 3 weeks, but I was doing it every like nap time and every bedtime. Whenever the kids were sleeping was like the time that I devoted to working on it.
Wow.
Um, just to get it done. And so it went pretty quick. But then it was still kind of COVID times. It was 2020 going into 2021. And so you had to wait like a few weeks to take your test. You couldn't just like sign up and go the next day. There was like a long wait. So after I finished the course, then I signed up for the test and I had a few weeks to wait while I studied and stuff like that. And then it kind of happened quick after that.
Wow. That's a lot of juggling though,
Yeah.
between the kids, relatively young kids, and taking the classes. You needed to be pretty disciplined. So you did get through it pretty quickly, juggling all of it.
Yeah, I feel like you have to like, I know a lot of people who do the online route and then they say, "Oh, it's not working," or it might be 6 months later and they'll still working on it. You really have to have the discipline to be like, "This is when I wanna get it done by. I'm going to work
Okay.
on it every day. I'm not gonna watch TV every evening. I'm not gonna go spend time outside all the time." Like, you kinda have to I'm not gonna be distracted by laundry or whatever's going on in the house, like the nap time and the bedtime is the time I have to work on it, and so you just have to have that self-discipline to do it. Otherwise, if you're not like that, then you might be better for, like, an in-person class or something like that where it's kinda like you're getting it done in a week and, kinda someone's making you pay attention, so
Ooh, that's really good advice. And I agree because some people are disciplined enough to get through
Mhm.
it online. Others might need a little more structure. That was a great comment. I appreciate that. So what
Yeah.
was the biggest challenge going through the classes? And was it just
Uh
juggling it all?
Yeah, I think just having the time to do it and, like, my desk at the time was in the middle of our living room. Like, my office that I'm sitting in right now was a playroom, so I didn't even have a space to be like, "Okay, I'm gonna sit and be tucked away." I had to still be in the mix, so my desk was literally in the living room, so it was just kinda, like, making sure I could stay focused,
Yeah.
if people are interrupting or whatever. That was probably the biggest thing, but other than that, I mean, I took a lot of practice tests, like, that's kinda how I learned, not just by, like, reading and memorizing, but really by, like, doing a practice test, seeing what types of questions and then remembering, kinda what the answers that were and that sort of thing, so I think just kinda navigating what is the test gonna be like and then staying focused.
Well, it worked because you got
Yeah.
your license as you
Yeah.
set out to do. Congratulations. So,
Thanks.
what did you expect your first year? You said you had dabbled in some rental properties, you
Yeah.
had some of that. Like, how'd you spend your first year? Or what were your
Um Yeah,
expectations?
so I didn't really have any
Okay.
expectations, which I know for, some people that are leaving careers and jobs going into it, it's harder because you have to have a goal and you have to make a certain amount. Where it was a little bit easier for me, I feel like, because I was
Yeah.
coming from staying home. For someone that's in a dual career, like it might be a little more easy because you don't have to rely on that income right away.
Mhm.
Um, so I didn't really have a goal. I was just kind of like, I'll see how it goes, really. But I think that's also what helped me because I didn't have to be such high pressure to everyone I met or everyone I interacted with. Um, and I was just kind of like, if we use it for ourselves once a year, that's great. If I do a sale here and there, that's great. But I think that kind of low pressure translated into people I met or clients I was working with that would say, "I love that you're such low pressure, that I don't feel like I have to just buy a house right now,"
Yeah.
so I think that actually helped me in the long run because people felt like at ease and they didn't feel as stressed or like they were on a certain timeline to find something.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of helped me early on. Um, have the good experiences, get the good reviews, create the referrals and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so let's dive into that because that's so cool. So you're going into first year, not really sure,
Yeah.
no huge expectations, and then wait for it, right? Like
Yeah.
you knocked it out of the park, I believe. Was it 12
So
transactions in like 9
yeah, so
months? Yeah.
I got my license in March of 2021. So it was like kind of the perfect time to get into real estate. Things had just started heating up. Um, people were buying their houses because it was still great interest rates and, all of that before they started going up. So that kind of gave me a leg up to someone starting, necessarily right now. It's a little bit more difficult starting out. It's just a little bit more slower. Um, but yeah, so it was busy in my area in general. I'm in a newer suburb that is growing rapidly, and we would have a lot of relocation people coming from other cities to the Richmond area. And then coupled with these neighborhoods that I live in and that are down the street, they're all a lot of newer neighborhoods. So it's a lot
Okay.
of young families moving in. And so I just kind of like, I didn't know anyone in Richmond when we moved here 5 years ago. And so I just kind of had to build my circle and sphere around people I met in the neighborhood or through sports and stuff like that. And I just kind of built it around like what I like doing. I like going to my kids' sports games. I like hosting neighborhood events. I like, socializing with other moms and moms groups and kind of all of that sort of stuff that I like doing anyway. I just did more of to meet people and stay in contact with them. And that's kind of really how everyone got to know me. So
Yeah. So how long after getting license did you close your first transaction? How long did it take?
So it was pretty quick, and that was only because, my husband's cousin was moving to the area, and the timing just, like, worked out perfectly. They were
Works.
relocating down from Cape Cod, and it was before I got my license that they were like, "Hey, we're gonna start looking for houses. Would you be able to help us?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have my license yet, but I have this mentor that's helping me. So, like, when I do get my license, then I can join in and help."
Yeah.
So that kind of worked out really well because they were looking just as I was getting my license. So that was kind of my first deal. And again, it went back to that low pressure of like a friend or family member helping them that you're close enough with. They know you're new. So it's, it was easy to work with them and help them find a home. And that kind of got, my first transaction and the jitters out. And then, I think shortly after that, like a month or so later, I was helping another family that relocated from California that found me on a mom's group or something because I would always be involved in these moms groups on Facebook because I used them to when I moved here to find out about the area and to find a realtor and all of that sort of stuff. So I kind of just thought, well, if that's what I was using to figure out the area and find a realtor, then I need to be the same if I want to get more clients like me. And so I just kind of really dove into that. And, it's always offering help, offering recommendations, offering suggestions. It's not always just about real estate or moving, but just how can I be helpful and a resource to other people in my community? And I think
That's
people took notice to that. And they'd always be like, talk to Christina. She knows about the area or, things like that. They would just tag me and be like, talk to her. She knows about the area. Cause I did so much research when I moved here that really
yeah.
helped.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So here you are, you're a licensed agent in Virginia. You're brand new to real estate, sort of. I
Mhm.
mean, you had a little bit of background and you're new to the area. And you established your credibility so quickly. So I really want to dive deeper into these mom groups.
Yeah.
And you said you had been involved just because you moved and you were looking for some help and support.
Uh-huh.
How'd you change that when you got your real estate license? And, were you involved? Did you add any new groups? Like, tell
Yeah.
me more
So
about it.
I started a group when I moved here. It was because it was like during COVID and I was still a stay-at-home mom and it was called the Moms of Mosley, which is the town I live in.
Okay.
And it grew over the last few years to now there's like 4,000 moms in it. So over the course of 4 years, it grew to that. And originally, like it was just I was a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to meet other moms. How was I going to do that during COVID? And there wasn't really anything great in our area for that, where moms could set up lunches, play dates, specifically for our town. There were like bigger
Yeah.
geographic areas, but because this was a newer kind of growing town too, there just wasn't a lot of it yet, and people weren't doing as much because of COVID. So I was like, well, I'll start this. When we lived in Kentucky, prior to here, there was a great moms group that I was a part of, and we did activities with the kids like multiple times a week. So I was like, I want something like that here. So I created that, and then it just kind of grew from there, invited people I knew, people in the neighborhood. And now kind of a lot of people that join it, know who I am because I'm the admin and I tell them who I am, and they'll see me post, or they might be friends with me and that sort of thing. So that's definitely helped, because then there's people that will, just see what I'm doing and see that I'm out there working and being in the community and stuff like that. And so even if they didn't use me, they might recommend me to a friend or family member or someone moving to the area. So
Yeah. So on your mom's groups, are you posting things both about what's going on with the kids in the area and real
yeah.
estate, or are
Yeah.
you separating that out a little bit?
It's not so much real estate based. I mean, if
There
I
you
have
go.
a new listing in our town, I'll post it on Small Business Saturday so people can see what's coming and stuff like that. But a lot of it is just community and, kid driven or
Yeah.
recommendations, and just kind of about our area and things moms need help with. So,
Yeah, that's perfect. And have you gotten a lot of leads for your real estate business from those groups?
yeah, I would say it's more like referrals. Like I
Yeah.
said, people will recommend their friend, or I might have a client that sees someone looking for a realtor and they're all tagging me in it, or, because they had a good experience. So
Yeah.
it's, but like I think last year, at the end of last year, I went back to track kind of where did my business come from this last year? And a lot of them were referrals, but a lot of them were referrals through social media. So it was almost like I can
Mhm.
track that 50% of my business came from Facebook in one way or another. And then it might have been a referral from that person too, but it kind of originated on social media.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's just, crazy the amount of people you can reach on social media versus just, mailing something out or in person.
Yeah. So, Christina, it sounds like that was definitely one of the ways that you got your business. Were there any
Mhm.
other marketing initiatives that were particularly successful for you?
I would say like I sponsor community events. So that's a big one, like kind of going back to things I like doing. So every
Yeah.
year I'll donate to my kids' like football or cheer sports association, and I'll sponsor like the homecoming gifts for all like the cheerleaders and football players. For the neighborhood, I host an egg hunt every year, and I'm the one who organizes all of that and kind of advertises it. And, I might get like a petting zoo or something like that. But so things that
So
like also
fun.
like my kids like doing, but I sponsor them as a way to get my name out there too. But then it's also something that we would like to do anyway.
That is fantastic. What about people often ask about open houses? Do you ever do open houses?
So I do them, but what I was telling my team, actually, I think it was last week or this week, was it's not just about the open house. Like I have opened and closed deals from open houses before, but it hasn't been many. It's probably been like 2 or 3 over the last 3 years. Granted, I'm not doing an open house every weekend. If I was slower, I would certainly be doing that because that's the easiest way to build your database.
Yeah.
Um, but I tell them it's not just about showing up for the open house and trying to convert the people that are there, because a lot of times now people that show up at the open houses already have an agent. So you're not really getting a lead from that right away, but you can still show your expertise, obviously give them your card in case down the road they're not happy with their choice. They have your information. But I tell them it's not just about the open house, it's about the proactive activities leading up to the open house and then after the open house. So just take that 2 hours that you're doing the open house. If it's slow, you can use it as time. I always bring my laptop, use it as time to create social media content, use it as time to get your to-do list done. But make sure leading up to the open house, you're doing the appropriate marketing and showcasing that online, because one, it's going to make it look like you know what you're doing, even if you don't. It's going to make you look busy. You're showing that you're working, you're putting an effort towards selling a house, whether it's your listing or not. All of that content is more valuable than the open house itself. And then the
Yeah.
open house, if you pick up a client or something, it's just kind of like icing on the cake.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and it's always hard to find time to work on things. So,
yeah.
yeah, that's great
It's just kind
thoughts.
of like 2 hours of office time. If people come, great. If they don't, like you can still use that time purposefully and advertise it online and show people you're working and all of that.
Yeah. And Christina, outside, obviously you're targeting moms, these mom groups that really big in the community. It's just amazing work you've done. Do you target any particular audience outside of that? Like, do you work particularly with buyers or sellers or
Um,
investors or anything
no,
like
so I
that?
work with both,
Yeah.
still, and I really like working with both. I know some agents, like after a little bit, they might only work with sellers or, they might only work with certain, neighborhoods or towns or whatever. I really work with anyone.
Yeah.
Usually I will just say I work within an hour radius, but a lot of my clients tend to be families like me that are moving into the area or they might be looking for their second or third home. But I work with first time home buyers too because I like helping them as well. So it's not like I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not going to help first time home buyers or I'm not going to help downsizers. I definitely help a handful of them every year too. It just seems to be the type of client I usually pick up is usually around my age,
Yeah.
moving, needing more space or moving to the area or moving out of the area. Um, so that tends to be a lot of what I get, which a lot of them might be sellers and then they also might be turning around and buying again. So
Yeah.
that was kind of a post I did yesterday just about like a lot of people don't know how to navigate both at the same time. But a lot of
Mm,
my clients, because they're buying their second or third home, they have to navigate both at the same time. So
yeah.
it's a little bit trickier, but I've done it so many times now. I can usually time it like pretty perfectly. So
Yeah, so it's working and you make it sound so easy. And you've had such tremendous success. I know we talked about 12 transactions in your first 9 months and then it's gone up and up from there. I know there've got to be challenges. So what would
yeah.
you say, especially early on, like your first year,
Mhm.
what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
I think like staying organized and staying like systemized. Because as I went
Mm,
from like the first year that I did 12, then the second year was like 26. And it was like when you're growing that fast, like you can't stay organized. There's just not enough time in the day to keep up with everything.
amazing.
So I think like my advice for someone starting out would be like set up the systems up front while you have the time. Because if you don't, it's really hard to catch up. Um, so even if you don't know if you're going to grow, if you don't want to double your business, plan like you're going to, because then you have those systems and processes in place from the beginning.
Yeah, good, really, really good advice.
Yeah.
So, did you have a mentor, a support system, your brokerage,
Mhm.
anyone that you would turn to when you're going through a transaction for the first time and you go,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, I don't know how to deal with this."
Yeah. So I had a mentor starting out. I was at a smaller local brokerage at the time, which I
Yeah.
was at for my first 3 years.
Okay.
And they gave me a mentor from the beginning. So that really helped because yeah, it's like every little like call or text or email like or contract like I want to make sure I'm checking with someone to make sure I'm doing it right. So like I
Yeah.
totally recommend having either a mentor or joining a team when you're starting out because you want to have that person you can go to and bounce ideas off of or even say, "Hey, does this verbiage look correct?" And at a smaller brokerage, which is where I was at, I liked that because I also had access to the broker and I was able to be like, "Hey, does this make sense?" Or "What would you do in this situation?" Or sometimes when you're at a larger firm or a larger cloud brokerage, it's harder to get that interaction. Sometimes you're kind of feeling like you're out a fish like in a big pond and I
Yeah.
didn't want to feel like that. So I made sure starting out that I was at a smaller company where I could have those interactions and learn better, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
people ask all the time, like, I'm gonna go out there, I'll be on my own, I'm
Mhm.
self-employed. And it's important to have that mentor, the brokerage,
Yeah.
something like that, huh?
I feel like that's where a lot of people make the mistake because you
Yeah.
know, they're a solo agent at these huge companies and they don't have the support. And yeah, you are a 1099 employee,
Mhm.
self-employed on your own,
Yeah.
if you don't have someone kind of showing you the ropes and guiding you, like there are certain things that you're not going to learn taking the course and test that you need to learn in the real world. And if you don't have anyone to learn from,
Yeah.
for people,
So,
yeah, aren't self-disciplined, it's like, what do I do next? There is
yeah.
no, course for that. So,
So true. So outside of the pre-licensing education with that
mhm,
got you your license, and you obviously had a mentor program, is there any other education or training that you've utilized?
mhm. So at my first brokerage, they did like the Buffini training. They did
Okay.
some of that, like learning how to work by referral. And then they had like training videos that you could watch, which was really helpful. So
Awesome.
definitely a brokerage that has stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then just the normal, like the continuing education that you have to do. I think in your first year, you have to do, is it 30 hours? I forget now. And then every 2 years after that. So, and
Yeah.
then, if you're with a brokerage that provides training and support, which I would recommend to anyone, like every other month we'll have, whether it's a lunch and learn or a sales meeting, I'll take all of those opportunities, even if you think you know everything, like just being around other people that are going through the same situations is kind of how you learn a lot, just listening to other people and what they did in a situation.
Such
So,
valuable advice to take advantage of all those
mhm,
opportunities presented to you. Um, so let's talk a little bit more about your clients and how do you build relationships with them? So you're finding them
mhm,
on Facebook or some of your social media or community event.
mhm,
How do you start the relationship and then how do you maintain it after maybe a transaction closes?
mhm. Yeah, so starting the relationship, I would say, so people, you can work two ways. You can cold call and you can work leads, or you can work by referral. Um, I mainly work by referral, so I feel like it's a little easier to
Sure.
build that rapport. Usually it's like a warm handoff or someone saying, "Hey, you need to talk to this person," or someone, recommending me. So I feel like that is a little easier to build the rapport because there's always someone involved to some capacity that
Hmm.
trusts you. So they kind of already have that kind of initial thing. If it's someone from an open house, it's going to be different. You're definitely going to have to build that trust. So you might just make sure you're consistent with whatever it is you're doing, whether you're reaching out, once a week by phone or by text, but just showing them that you're consistent. But then also, like, again, the low pressure thing. Like, I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're pressured to buy a house with me. Like, I always tell them up front, like, when you're ready is when I'm ready. Like, whether you're ready in a month or two or you're ready, 2 years from now. But I'll make sure they're getting, my monthly newsletter that I now send out. I might have them on a search, so they're getting regular emails and communication from me to some extent. I'm usually friends with them on social media, so they'll be seeing me post. I might comment on their post, or I might, say, "Oh, your kids are so cute," or "Happy birthday," or, just something I would normally say in person anyway, but just making sure they know I'm thinking of them, or I saw that photo and, I liked it. It a little bit goes a long way, just staying in touch that way even.
Yeah.
And then I usually have client events like twice a year, so definitely inviting people, not just past clients, but it might be people that I know are looking or we haven't found a house yet, but still inviting them to keep in touch. Because once you do get a few years down the road and you might have closed, 50, 75, 100 transaction, it does get harder to stay in touch with the same people. Like there's so many people I would love to like be friends with and see on a regular basis and like I have that relationship with them, but I'm only
Yeah.
one person. It's like so hard to see everybody.
Yeah.
So at least like the client events I do and stuff like that, I usually get to see most people then a couple times a year.
That's great. So
Yeah.
so fun. So fun. So
And I think
what
it makes it easier when it's like you're basing things around things you like to do anyway, because then it doesn't make it feel like you have to go out of your way to do it. Like you want to do it anyway. So,
That sounds like a lot of fun in addition to helping your business grow.
Yeah.
So you're able to do the two together, which is amazing. So
Yeah.
what would you say is your favorite thing about real estate?
I'd probably say I was thinking about the other day actually, and I had like a dream. I used to be a server in high school and through college. Like I worked in the service industry.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking about it when I woke up and I was like, I think I like real estate so much because it's just like an unlimited potential. And it's just kind
Yeah.
of like how hard you work is what you're gonna earn. And I think that's what's so nice about being your own boss. Like how hard you work is what you're gonna get. And like no one's gonna tell me like this is what you can make. Like I'll make what I'm putting into it. If I don't feel like doing more than 30 transactions in a year, I'll slow down or I'll give more to my team. If I want to work harder and if I want to make more, I have that potential to do that. Which there aren't many, jobs or industries like that. So,
Right. Yes.
mhm,
Yes, for sure. Real estate is quite unique, isn't it?
mhm. But it
um,
goes back to like then when I was thinking of the service industry, I'm like, when I was younger, I used to be like, I'll take another table, I'll take another table. Like it kind of has a lot of parallels. Because it's like, yeah, I was doing that in high school and college, and now it's just kind of like, okay, I'll try to sell another house. I can take another client. Like, so it's just kind of nice that you can control your own destiny to some
yeah.
extent.
Yeah, you're a lifelong overachiever, it
Yeah.
sounds like. So with that said, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, so I don't know. Sometimes I say like I don't know if I'll still be, actively selling in 5 years. I mean probably not in 10, probably in 5 I would say I'll still be selling. But maybe, that might be kind of the threshold between the next 5 and 10 years to where I'm really building out my team and then I'm just kind of supervising them more and helping them get to their max potential. Since I started a team over the last year, a lot of these agents are newer. It's their first and second year in real estate. So now I'm
Okay.
going into year 5 soon, the end of this year. And so I just kind of think back to like, well, in 5 years, I want them to be where I am now. So like I can help them over the next 5 years kind of hopefully get to that point.
That's beautiful, and pulling the people up the ladder behind you. I love that. Um, any tips or tricks for aspiring real estate agents that you would want them to know?
Yeah. I would say, like, I think the biggest thing that has made me more successful is because I'm quick and I'm responsive. And it's really not that hard to be overly communicative. And you would be surprised at how many people don't do it. Yeah. A lot of I feel like the clients I get are because like I'm the first or second one to reach out to them, or I'm the one that responds the most. Which there's pluses and minuses to that. You still want to be able to have boundaries, and I probably didn't have enough boundaries from, the get-go, but that
Yeah.
also kind of catapulted my business to a different stage. But I think it's just because I work quick and I normally don't have like a to-do list that sits very long. I just try to get things done as they come in, so it's like I can check it off my list and move on. And so if someone reaches out with a question or wants to set up an appointment, I don't let it fester too long. I try to get something on the calendar or get them what they need within the next couple days so I can move on in my head. I did it and then move on. But I feel like people appreciate that. I mean, people nowadays don't want to be waiting days just to hear back from somebody.
Yeah.
And you would be surprised at how many people that I even work with on a regular basis that don't respond within the day.
Wow. Such valuable advice. And
Yeah.
so, speaking of boundaries, I just want to, you're a mom, you've got a couple
Mhm.
of kids, you're rocking it in real estate. Like, where do you set your boundaries? How do you set those?
Not very good. I'm still learning. It's hard when I'm, busy right now, but um I definitely have boundaries from the fact like I'm going to pick my kids up from the bus stop and I'm going to pick them up from school. Like I've never done the whole after school thing or, had a nanny type thing. Like I want to be the one to get them off the bus most days if I can. yeah, if I have a listing appointment or a new construction appointment that it has to be at 3:30 or 4, I'll take it and make adjustments, whether we have a babysitter or my husband or my mom comes over, depending on their
Sure.
schedules. I do have the boundaries of like 3:30 is when my kids get off the bus, and I'm going to have everything done before that so that I can do that. And I want to be the one to take them to their sports and go to their activities. And then if I have to be back on my computer in the evening doing paperwork or sending a listing agreement, I do that when they go to bed at like 8:30. And so I might not do that every night, but it might be 2 or 3 nights a week that I'm doing that because I was at
Yeah.
football or cheer or something like that. But like, I'm not going to miss those things. And I've kind of set that as a standard. Like, it is what it is. So,
Yeah. And thank you for being candid and sharing some of that, because our
yeah.
audience, I know we've got moms out there
Mhm.
thinking the same thing, and
Yeah.
like, how do I do this and how do I juggle it? And the flexibility is great, but it's
Mhm.
hard work. It's hard
Yeah.
work, no
And
doubt. And
people,
so
say, I don't know if I want to be a realtor. I have to work evenings and weekends. Well, yeah, in the beginning, you will probably have to. But usually, once you kind of build your clientele and your business, like
yeah.
you can, set those expectations. Or I might say, like, yeah, I can do showings. Now it's just kind of like if a client asks, I might say, I can do showings Tuesday evening and Thursday evening this week, or else it has to be, on the weekend for a couple hours or something like that. Cause we have sports practices or games or whatever. And so now I just kind of say that up front. Whereas maybe the first year, I wasn't so much like that. But I still tried to make it work and schedule things around, which is the beauty of, real estate and being your own boss. You kind of have that
Yeah.
flexibility to set that schedule. And I think COVID has helped that some too, because a lot of people work from home now during the day. They're able to go see
Yeah.
houses. But that's why too, like we have the open houses because people can come see, a house on the weekend, but their agent doesn't have to be there. So I feel like it's kind of a perk, um, hosting an open house too, because then it's like, okay, well, not everyone wants to be working all weekend, but those are opportunities we can give to each other, to have that flexibility. So
Yeah. Really important insights there, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think that
yeah.
was just so valuable. So, Christina, we're going to jump into our lightning round. I'm going to ask you some questions. They're just fun, 60 seconds or less. Just the first thing that comes to your mind. I'm going to start with: is there a book or a podcast that you've read or
Mhm.
listened to that you would recommend for our listeners?
Yeah. I like the Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast. That one I started probably listening to maybe a year ago when it was kind of like things were slowing down and I was like just trying to think of new ideas and stuff like that. Honestly, if anyone is ever slow or not busy, like listen to that thing because there are so many ideas on there and it's from other top producers, in the industry and I've implemented a number of ideas just from that podcast. And again, I just feel like people probably listen to it and then don't do anything with that. So it's like listen to it and then do something. You can't do everything, but if it's picking one thing every quarter or even every year to implement from other high producing agents, like go through those, listen to some of them. Like I haven't listened to every one, but I'll go through and I'll pick the ones that might be relevant to my business and kind of try to implement some of the things that are working for them. I don't
Yeah,
read a lot, sadly, because I feel like I'm so busy between the job and the kids. Like
sure.
I don't really read or watch TV much just because I don't have the time. But every time I'm driving, because we drive so much as real estate agents, if I have like a 40-minute drive or longer, I'll listen to that podcast and, just kind of try to get new ideas.
Yeah, it's perfect. And taking action with the ideas. I love that. That was great. If you had a time machine, you could go back to the day you started this
Mhm.
journey. What advice would you give yourself?
Um,
Or what might you do differently?
yeah. I probably would set like more boundaries on like my work hours. So, like
Yeah,
I mean, I have some clients will text me at like 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes, but it's because I respond right away and like, or I might be emailing then too. But now with all these
sure.
cool features on our phones, you can schedule a text, you can schedule an email. all of that sort of thing, because I like to work in the evening to get things done. But then that also shows people that I'm working and I'll respond.
Yeah.
So maybe just like schedule those
Yeah.
texts, schedule those emails so people aren't like, oh, she's up. I can
Yeah.
ask a bunch of questions.
Yes, that's a really good one. I love
Yeah.
that. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive,
Mhm.
who might it be and why?
So I thought about this and I said my grandmother, just because I would love to just see her one last time. I mean, there's
Uh,
obviously a number of inspirational and famous people, but I feel like today you can get a lot of that just by, listening to stories and podcasts. But I'll never have my grandma back. So I would love that opportunity.
that's great. And I have the chills. So it's really, really awesome. Christina, what'd you do for work yesterday?
Yesterday I met with my team and we went over someone in my office actually showed us. So I've been an agent for 5 years and I haven't really had to use it, but showed us how to do like reverse prospecting on the MLS. And so what that means is like if you have a listing that's been sitting a while, which is now happening more often, the days on market are getting a little bit longer. It's how to find those people that might have favorited your property, or how to search set up and the property came through, and you can contact their agent and be like, hey, we're dropping the price on this, or hey, I saw you had a client that had favorited this house, but you haven't shown it yet. Like you can kind of target those people and email them or send them a flyer, send them more information about, your listing to try to get more showings. So we learned about that yesterday, which was awesome. And then I stopped at a client's house that we're listing today, and I dropped a bunch of stuff off to stage the house, because we stage all our own listings, or if we need a bunch of furniture, we'll have a stager come in and do that. But kind of setting us up for the day today. So today we could go set everything up for pictures and make it look, how we would want to look for photos.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And it's great for me because it gives me that creativity piece that I used to have in the
Yeah.
fashion industry. And so I still get to like incorporate that into my business too, which is fun.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
So, Christina, where can listeners and viewers follow your journey or connect with you?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook, Christina Goodpaster with an ER at the end. Sometimes people spell that wrong. And then my team page is the Goodpaster group on Facebook. And then I'm also on Instagram, Christina Goodpaster _ RVA Realtor. Those are kind of my two big social media. I mean, I do LinkedIn and a little bit of that, but again, can't do everything. So got to lean into what works. So those are usually the best ways to find me.
Yes, for sure. Well, congratulations on your success. This
Yeah.
has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your sharing your story, and I think you're an inspiration to many. So thank you so, so
Thanks
much
for having
for the
me.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. And if anyone, needs help in the Richmond area, or a Central Virginia realtor, or even if you're just starting out and you're like, how did you build that? Feel free to reach out with me. I'm happy to help. So
That's fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights inspired you to take that next step in your real estate journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, or head over to our channel to see some of the other content we've produced. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway or a question for our next guest. If you have a recommendation for someone we should interview, please send a note to unlockingrealestate@colibrirealestate.com.